Today on the Pat Mayo Experience, I'm doing one of my quarterly crossovers with the Taekcast and Davis Mattek. Some people hate that. Others very much enjoy it, but we've really talked about a ton of stuff. I catch him up on what's going on in golf. Are the Chiefs any good? Allen versus Lamar, Justin Fields trade, the DraftKings Pick6 and that, acquiring customers for sportsbooks. See, I wrote all of it down so I would remember this time around. Let's see here. Dieting and exercises for the new year. That's at the very end. We just kind of have a best ball conversation off the top for playoff stuff, just the content game in general. We talk about a lot of things on this show. So I actually really enjoyed this one. So I hope you do too. Smash likes up at the channel while you're here. Download the audio podcast as always. And if you want to find the Taekcast, the link is down in the description right now. All right? It's a bonus show, so just have fun with it. All right? Let's go.
Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
All right, 3, 2. Ooh, I'm gonna make a pick, my last pick in my best ball draft that I'm doing right now. Then we're gonna start.
What best ball draft are you doing right now?
I got playoff drafts.
Oh, on Underdog?
Yeah.
Cool. What are you going to take with your last pick? What's your build?
Let's see here. What is my build? I've got 4 Chiefs, 2 Rams, 2 49ers. So the Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl.
Do you try to rig it? Do you try to play the playoff seedings when you do your teams? Or you're just like, I'm just going to stack up teams I think are going to go to the Super Bowl? Like if you have 49ers and Rams, if the Rams beat the Lions, then they would play the 49ers in the next round.
Well, it really depends, right? It depends on, in general, I would just say I try and get the teams that I think are going to the Super Bowl. I try and get as many 49ers as I can every time I do it. But the way the structure is, sometimes you might need the Rams points just in the first round to advance, because obviously the 49ers don't play in the first round. So you'll need a lot of points to get 49ers players to the next round.
It's funny. I haven't played any, I don't play best ball anyway, but I really don't like, and I know that you love it, and I know that there are people who love it, like the season long from February to August. Let's talk about all of the optimal strategies and all that shit. I actually find just even thinking about that, because I hadn't really thought about playoff best ball.
It's way more interesting.
This is interesting. You can really come up with some decent strategies here. I think that there's a decent case. Now, obviously, it's not going to work every single time to just say we're not taking any 49ers and we're not taking any Ravens, because they're not going to play they have no ability to play 4 games. That you say, I'm going into 150 drafts or whatever the max is, and you're just like, screw it. I'm not taking any Ravens, any 49ers, and I will load up on Cowboys. Or I think that the Browns or Texans beat the Ravens in the second round, so I'm just going to load up on whatever team that I think is going to win that game. I'll load up on them to try to get the path where I get 8 full games out of my stacks. That's interesting, I think. But then you have to play the brackets, the seeding bracket, or not the bracket, but the reseeding, so you get the right people. I had someone comment on my spread pick show this week. They called us real casuals for football because we thought that there was reseeding in the second round and it wasn't just a bracket. That's confidently incorrect.
I don't know shit. I actually don't know who plays who in the next round.
It reseeds. The Niners will play the lowest remaining seed. It's not a bracket.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
I thought we were starting the show. I had a time code down for best ball now.
No, I hadn't started yet.
Well, I haven't started. We can use my record.
Okay. All right. Yeah, guys, we're here. We're doing the show. Davis Mattek, Pat Mayo. You got to see a little bit of behind the scenes there. Yeah. I mean, this is this week for you probably is, I don't know, mostly death. It's death. It's death for you. So I was thinking the same thing for me. This is a very busy week for me, but I was thinking because you don't give a shit about all of these playoff contests, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's not like I'm covering season-long fantasy football all that much. Essentially, all I've done season fantasy football-wise, in season, I do my show with Jake on Monday afternoons because that's when it needs to come out. Monday afternoons. I release the rankings for the week, which means I need to have the rankings done by Sunday night, Monday morning, so we can have them ready to go. But that's essentially all the season long I'm doing. Everything else remains the same. Like I did my live show with Tim on Sunday to recap the games, guess the spreads. We did the full spread pick show. I have DK picks with Tambo coming up on Friday, best bets on Thursday, plus all the golf coverage that's now back.
That's obviously the difference is that you are, you're grinding out the Century coverage and
Sony Open
the
this week,
Sony
sir.
Open. Yeah, I'm behind. I am in the one and done pool. My plan was to spend. I got about 45 minutes this afternoon that are unclaimed, and my plan is to get up to speed on everything that has happened in golf in like the last 4 months while I've not been paying attention. John Rahm, he's gone, right?
Well, here,
he's a
how
live
about
boy.
this? Well, let's do a 5-minute golf refresher. You have questions. I will give you the quickest possible answers on everything you need to know.
Okay. Who all left for the live other than Rahm?
Just Rahm, and then Adri Arnas left from the Euro Tour. Finau and Hatton were rumored to go and play on Rahm's team, but they didn't go.
What ended up happening with the lawsuit that said that there's an agreement to make an agreement on a merger in the future? What ended up happening there?
Fenway Sports ended up investing in the PGA Tour, so they provided some of the capital to basically keep them afloat, but there was an extension on the deadline between the Saudis and the PGA Tour pushed all the way up to April, meaning that all three of these are it's going to happen by the time the Masters comes around, and that's probably going to be it. So the smartest man in the world, the smartest man in the world is John Rahm, who just got $600 million and will probably be back on tour in 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from someone who my golf viewing is above the level of a casual as it would be defined by like viewership, but certainly more casual probably than the average listener and viewer of the PME. I am not interested. I'm not all that interested in watching golf as it exists right now in this fractured state. I'm never watching a 54-hole, fucking Buckminster Abbey live tournament. Like, I just no interest. But I'm also not all that interested in watching Chris Kirk win at Pebble Beach. It's just like those two things. As it exists right now, it's the shittiest possible combination of things where we only 4 times a year do you get strong fields, basically.
I would kind of flip that maybe the other way, because I think this is all going to end up being a really big net positive for golf when all is said and done, once they come back together, because we have now actually created what we've always wanted. Like, think about the magic of the Ryder Cup. And like, it doesn't really exist with the President's Cup because there's no animosity between the USA and a bunch of guys from all around the world. Like, I mean,
right.
Besides being white, what else does Australia, Canada, and South Africa really have in common? All playing on the same team. Like, there's no.
They all have the Queen on their money.
I don't think that South Africa does. Do they? Yeah, South Africa is the Commonwealth, isn't it? Although I thought they were settled by Holland. Like
is the Queen on South Africa's money?
It would have to, because the Invictus Games were there. But I always thought that, for whatever reason, that South Africa was a Dutch colony. Because
no, it's Queen Elizabeth is on their money.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know if she still is, but she was.
So yeah, I guess all the Commonwealth countries. There's your connection at that point. Everyone who seceded from the Commonwealth. Although we didn't have to fight for it in Canada, they just let us go in 1867. They were just like, yes, it's a lot of money to run Canada.
Is the Queen still on your money?
The King's on the money now.
King Charles II?
Sure. I don't think I've seen like an actual bill in like 3 years, so I don't actually know. But theoretically, he should be on the money. He should be on the 20, replacing Queen Elizabeth.
Are there weirdos in Canada who are like obsessed with the monarchy? That so checks out, because Cust is such he's the guy who's always yearning for the past, how things were. He definitely is the sort of guy who would really look up to the monarchy and think it's like a good thing.
I don't know if he necessarily thinks the monarchy is a good thing or looks up to it, but he just really likes customs and conventions and traditions, and there's so much of that baked into like the royal family. Like, oh, they do things like how it was in 1492. It's like, all right.
Which is like kind of cool, I mean, I get it. I'm not interested in it personally, and maybe honestly, maybe it's just because we have nothing like that in America. Like, something historical in America is like a building that has existed for 2 generations instead of 1 generation. Like you go and you're like, oh, that place was built in 1884. And, like if you're in Europe, you're like, oh, Hadrian built that wall 2000 years ago, and it's just in the middle of London, or, London has existed as a place forever, which is like so different than we do things here.
When I was on my honeymoon, it was really jarring. We took a train from Munich to Vienna, and Munich was bombed to shit during the war. So it actually looks a lot like the newer buildings where I live in Halifax. Like Halifax, I mean, I think it was the first English settlement in North America, or at least one of like the first 3 or something like that. Like we have a giant citadel fort on top of a hill that was probably built like 300, 400 years ago. Like it's a very historic city. However, in 1917, the biggest explosion in the history of the world at the time occurred in our harbor when 2 ammunition ships ran into each other in World War One, and it blew up like most of the downtown. So we had these so nothing was really there for a while, and then they built up these like shitty concrete like type apartment buildings in like the 50s or whatever it is. And Munich looked so much like that because everything had been destroyed in World War II. So they rebuilt in like the late 40s, early 50s, early 60s. But it had that sort of, it's a bit older, it looks a bit scruffier and dirtier, but it had a really cool vibe. Then you take this train through the Alps to get to Vienna, and Vienna was untouched during World War II. And they just have museums from 1,000 years ago and shit like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so like that part I get, because I like history. I mean, I find history like pretty fascinating. I love, like reading some fucking Roman soldier's diary from 1700 years ago. Like all that's pretty interesting to me. And that is roughly in the same vein as why someone would maybe be in to the monarchy. I mean, obviously, like I don't care because the monarchy as it exists now is like, corrupt and gross and like, whatever.
Yeah, but it's all celebrity worship, right? Like no one really,
Yes,
it's not like, oh, I wish the queen was the head of state for real in making decisions, or the king. It's
Right.
like, oh, there's no difference between the queen and Taylor Swift to some people.
I would say it's like literally probably the same thing. Yeah, like whatever role that people have for the queen in their head is the role that Swifties here in America, well, all over the world have for her.
Have you seen her around?
Yeah.
Have you seen her around Kansas City yet?
I have not seen her, but I do have some friends who have been to the Christmas pop-up bar that her and Travis Kelce were taking pictures. I mean, she's around. She goes to places that people know. Like I mean, obviously, like she's got security out the ass, but yeah, she's around. She seems to be there quite a bit, which is kind of surprising to me.
Maybe she's really in love.
I mean, I feel like that probably, yeah. I feel like it seems like they're probably going to get married. I mean, I don't know. Like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, well, it was funny because when it all first started, it's like, who is this Travis Kelce? Like, because if you're huge into music, you probably don't know who Travis Kelce is. Like, if you're a random Taylor Swift fan, right? So people are like, who is this Travis? Why is she with this guy? And then you take a look at like her other past boyfriends. Are like, they're all these fucking scrawled out
skinny
music
guys.
People. It's like, yeah, let's have this 6'7" guy who's like all jacked up football player who's like a cool dude. Like that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably. I mean, I've actually met Travis.
Me too. I had him on the show on Radio Row, and we were comparing. We had a competition of whose earrings were the cheapest because we both wear knockoff earrings. He probably doesn't anymore.
See, well, but maybe though, because he's just kind of that type of guy. Like he just is like kind of a funny, lovable guy. I mean, that's just sort of his. And obviously, I mean, like a little bit of it is probably a shtick. I don't listen to him and his brother's podcast, but like you'll get the viral, clipped videos. That's all, these big podcasts exist for, is to get like 90-second video clips that end up going viral. And he always comes off pretty good on those.
He was very affable when I met him. He was just coming off of the reality show Catching Kelsey when I talked to him. So we talked about that for a while, which was just amazing.
That was a different era. I mean, that was pre-mustache. Different guy. When he cut his hair, he used to do the fuck boy,
the broccoli cut?
Yeah, basically.
Or like the
Brock
super white
cut.
guy fade, which doesn't look good on anyone, or any white guy
This-
at least.
The super white guy fade with kind of like the high point and a lot of gel, and then when he abandoned that, things really turned around for him.
If you're gonna be a white guy and do the super high cut fade, you need to be fucking jacked. That's the only way that works.
Well, he is pretty jacked.
That's
so.
true. Or you need to be like Chalamet, like skinny, like so skinny. It's like, oh, okay, this is like giving you depth and like width now that you're doing it this way.
The Timothy Chalamet as a sex symbol thing, though, I gotta say that I do not get it.
I mean,
he seems
I like
every
Chalamet.
scrawny. Oh, I do too. I think he's funny. I think he's endearing. But the idea that he's like super attractive and that like people are really into him is like crazy. Like I've seen a million guys in my life that look like that, just like scrawny little guys with scrawny hair.
Gen Z, man. This is how you know you're getting older. You just don't get it.
I have those moments quite a bit these days, actually, where I'm like, this is just not for me, you know?
I had a discussion with Tim and Jeff the other day. None of us knew who Travis Scott was. Apparently, he's very famous.
Oh, I like him. Yeah.
Sure. But you're 10 years younger than me. Why would I know who that is?
I mean, he's pretty famous. He is above the level of famous that, like, you know who Kanye West is?
Yes. I've seen Kanye's been around for like 25 years.
So, like, Kanye West and Travis Scott are like, or were brothers-in-law, and like toured together.
So he was married to a Kardashian then.
No, one of the Jenners, the older Jenner sister.
It's all the same.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. See, I know all of them because my wife watches the Kardashian show.
So then you should know Travis Scott, because I think maybe he wouldn't go on the show very much though.
See, out of all of like the men in the Kardashian lives, the only ones I really remember from the show were Hump Daddy when him and Kim were married, which was hilarious, and then Scott Disick, who rules. Not really, but hilarious.
You kind of look like Scott Disick.
Little bit. I have less of a drug problem than Scott Disick, though.
Yeah. I do. I bet you've gotten that comp before, though. Like now that I say it, I'm like, yeah, you guys do look alike.
It vacillates depending on my body fat level of who I look like. Apparently, I got really generic face on the go. Sometimes
you got generic white guy face.
Like depending on how I do my hair, I look like Pee Wee Herman. If I was really skinny at one point, I looked like Edward Norton. People have said Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I'm
you do look like Edward Norton. You really look like Edward Norton.
There's the one.
Yeah, I would say that's your number one celebrity comp. Yeah,
or wow. Scott Disick.
No, more Edward Norton than Scott Disick. But yeah, I mean, to your point, you do just kind of have generic white guy face to some degree.
There we are. So back to golf. The whole point this came up, the history of everything. So you have this history with the Ryder Cup. It's a real rivalry, and it's been competitive over the past 40 years. The President's Cup has never really been competitive, so that's sort of a non-factor. And then you get this lead up of like, hey, team golf sucks, but team golf is fun when it's the Ryder Cup, right?
Right.
So I think that LIV is still going to exist as a standalone tour, but their players are going to be able to play certain PGA events throughout the course of the year. Like we'll see Brooks in Phoenix again, that kind of thing. Like he'll play on like 2 PGA events and all the majors, and so will Rahm, and so will Bryson, and whatever. But then we'll get like a Ryder Cup style end of the year PGA versus LIV. Now that's like a real built-in rivalry. That's pretty cool, I think.
That is pretty cool. I mean, I guess it would depend on who represents who. You know, how is it, like, where do they play? You know, what time is it on? Like all that stuff. You know, if the Saudis demand that it's played, at 4 a.m. in America, it's some
but they
desert
won't
course or whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like LIV actually cares about making any money, but they just want a piece of the PGA Tour to have that sort of influence. But you could move it around. You could have it in the States. You could have it like the only place where LIV has been successful at all was in Australia. So yeah, do one there. The President's Cup was like hyped in Australia too. So I think that would be a fun one. But I don't think that golf has really changed all that much just because John Rahm left. Like who the fuck cares about John Rahm? Honestly, do you? Oh, I have to watch this tournament. John Rahm is playing.
No, I don't. It's more of like a vibes-based thing, right? Where it's just like, I'm gonna watch the AT&T Pro-Am. It's like,
which
playing?
You did, and hit Nick Taylor as a winner at like 100 to 1. That made you tune in. You didn't care who else was in that besides Nick Taylor.
Yes, I mean, so it was 150 to 1. But yes, it definitely I will continue to wager on golf because it is a great sweat and because the markets are still somewhat beatable. They're, not I
Yeah.
mean not certainly not like head-to-heads or anything.
No,
Like
I
I'm
would say
not
flip it the other way. The head-to-heads are probably a bit more beatable. Top 40s and 20, like 30s, 20s are probably somewhat beatable. There is, like, they have sucked. There was no value in the outright market to begin with, but it is so much worse now. Now that people like actually bet on golf, at least 10
now
years
that
ago
people are
when no
in
one
on
was
it.
betting
Yeah.
on golf, it was okay. Now it's like, oh my God, the amount of handle that they take on these fucking markets is outrageous.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if I got an outright last year or not.
I hit
I
like
probably
3.
did because I still have some money in my one account. That's the thing is if I let myself get too into golf, I will bet way too much. Like there have been years where like I bet more on golf than I did on football, which is like that's a lot, because player props are going to be just way more beatable than golf stuff. But the one thing I have noticed is some of the books just straight up copy data golf, which means that the tools that I'm using to bet, it's like it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, so
It's like
that's
it's
why
completely unbeatable.
That's why you should subscribe to fantasynational.com,
I
fantasynational.com
do.
slash Mayo. Get yourself 20% off and you'll be good to go. And that way you can do your own research, Davis. You know who will love, I need to get like the mega people on here, like doing their own research on everything. Do your own research on golf with code Mayo.
Well, I am a lifelong subscriber to Fantasy National, and yeah, I get on Fantasy National and click around. It's definitely weeks where once football is over, like post Waste Management, I will spend more time, being really in on golf. Like, how people say the NBA kind of starts on Christmas.
The
Like
NBA
for
never
me,
starts. I'm convinced that people don't actually watch the NBA. I think
well,
they just consume it through podcasts and highlights.
there are definitely. I mean, that's like a real thing.
Like
than
more
the
so than
NBA.
any sport that we have like in North America. Like the primary audience for the NBA are podcasts, TikTok, and Instagram, not actually watching games.
I think more people listen to the Low Post podcast in the 24 hours after it releases than watch the NBA on a Wednesday night. Yeah, I think that's probably true.
That'd be my guess anyway. Like the only person I know who actually watches basketball is Garion. That's it.
I got League Pass on my phone. I watch the Thunder are really good this year, so I watch a lot.
Yeah, it's a hometown thing. Like I've watched like 2 Raptors games this year. That's it. Like since I left Toronto, like the Raptors are still the one team that I will tune into because that was the team that I supported the most. Like I rarely went to live games, but if I did go to a live game, it was most definitely Raptors over Jays or Leafs. So I still have my allegiance, and they won the title when I was there, and I saw a finals game, and that was awesome. So I guess I'm kind of in
cool,
for
right?
life.
And I mean, being a Leafs fan is like, why would you even do that to yourself?
It's
being
hilarious,
a Leafs,
man. It is
it's like,
so
it's
funny.
like being a Dolphins fan.
And it's not though. Maybe it is, but no one. It's not like, but people in Miami, at least the way that I can think about it, it's not like they think that they're the best team every year and are going to win the Super Bowl. Regardless if the Leafs are good or bad, people think that they're going to win and are like, Leafs fans only know about the Leafs. They're not even hockey fans. They just like the Maple Leafs. So they have no conception that other teams exist, who's on other teams, who's good on other teams. Maybe some do. That's a generalization. But for the most part, like I've never seen anything like it. Like even when I lived in New York, Yankees fans still knew about at least the other teams in the AL. They at least knew about who was on Boston. And then beyond that, they knew about the teams in the AL East. Like, oh, here are the teams that are good. Here are the teams that are bad. Like, they knew people. It wasn't just Yankees, Yankees, Yankees. Then that's all we know about baseball. About the National League, they didn't give a shit about that. But about teams that played the Yankees, they knew. In hockey, Leafs fans are just like, man, the Leafs are so sick. They go top cheddar cheese. It's the best. Like, they're fucking morons.
And they haven't won they've won one playoff series in like the last 20 years.
Yeah, and
they won one last year, right?
Yeah, I think they did win one last year. And then they last won the cup in 1967. I think there might still have been 6 teams then.
Man, pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Hockey is so interesting where it is like a global sport, but it is so poorly marketed here in the United States. I mean, it's just like no one cares. Like I'm in a town with a team that won the Stanley Cup. What was it? 5 years ago, the Blues won the Stanley Cup or whatever. And you can go. I mean, like I went to a game because the Avalanche were in town the other night, and like I went to a game, bought like pretty nice seats for like $90 the day of, and just like walked in. Like no one cares.
I like going to hockey games. I think hockey is one of the
So
best
fun.
live sports that you can go to. It's like it's action packed the entire time. Like I have no interest to watch it on TV. Like for me, basketball and hockey just blow away everything else to go see live.
You know what's not a very fun live sport?
Football?
Football, dude.
Yeah, football
it
sucks.
It sucks.
Like think about how bad football is on a random Thursday night at your house
Yeah.
watching it. Imagine
But you got to
going
be
to that
outside
game.
in the cold.
Yeah.
But you got to be outside in the cold, right? I've been to now Chiefs games generally pretty fun because the team's good and like the atmosphere is pretty good. But like I went to a Thursday night game where they lost to the Chargers on a 2-point conversion as time expired. And I just remember being like, that was one, and obviously it takes 2 fucking hours to leave. It's like that was just like one of the worst ways I could have spent 6 hours of my life. Like going to this game, it's like 27 degrees, it's cold. They lose to the Chargers on I can't remember if it was a Thursday or a Monday, but it just like sucked ass. It was just so miserable.
I guess because the football stadium is different because it's so big getting in and out. But the cities that have actually figured this out are the ones that have the stadiums downtown with like in bigger cities, like with great transit. Like the transit itself, the subway system in Toronto sucks, like comparatively to other cities. It only really has, let's see, the U route and the cross route. Like that's it. It's not like in New York. Like when I moved to New York, I was like, oh my God, I can get anywhere on the subway. This is fucking amazing. Like I can get to it from borough to borough, avenue to avenue. If I just know, once I figure out like what line is what, I can get to anywhere I want. You cannot do that in Toronto. You can take a subway to a spot, then you have to take like a streetcar or a bus to cross the city, whatever it might be. But the main focal point of the out of city, like, I guess they would call it like Amtrak in the States, from like, anywhere in the Tri-City, like into Penn Station. It's the GO station in Toronto at Union Station, where all of the suburbs, Hamilton, wherever it might be, all converge at Union Station. The main subway station is Union Station 2, where everything kind of, it's the bottom of the U in the city. And within a 10-minute walk of Union Station, the hockey arena / basketball arena, Skydome is right there. The soccer field is a little bit more down. It probably take you 20 minutes to walk there, but everything is centralized like that. So when you get in and out of games, it's not quick, but you're not sitting in traffic in a parking lot honking your horn for 2 hours, which I always found made it a better experience for me. Like when I went to one Bills game just to do like we drove down, did the pregame there. Like that was fun. That was a fun experience. Yeah. But like getting out of the fucking parking lot, waiting at the border, it's like fucking kill me, man. Like this is the worst. And it was like minus 80 out.
So that's like that's a real thing I've noticed as I've become an old fucking cranky man, which is that leaving anything, concert, sporting event, right? I mean, we got an MLS team here in St. Louis now, a hockey game, whatever it is, leaving anything, the worst, man. The worst. Just like sitting in traffic, a fucking parking garage, waiting to get on the highway, just kill me, man. Like I hate that so much that it makes me actively not want to go do things.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the metropolitan experience of having something in a large downtown core with transit by it actually makes it palatable to go to, because it doesn't take a long time to get out of there. Right. Or you can go walk out, go to a bar for 10, 20 minutes, like chat with the people afterwards, go watch the start of like the next set of games or whatever it might be, have a beer, have a snack. And then, 30 minutes later, there's literally no one left around. You just go home.
Yeah. That's pretty optimal. Like, so Soldier Field in Chicago, if you are already downtown, you can just walk in, you can hop on the train, you can do whatever. I literally cannot imagine having to drive from the suburbs down to a game at Soldier Field. Like that would just be like that. I literally would not do it. I don't think I could be paid to do it.
Well, I mean, so what people do from the suburbs to get like whether it be MLS or whether it be a Leafs game or whatever, they drive to their like go station, like where their train station is in their town that's 45 minutes away, park there, take the train in, and then just walk to the stadium because it's 2 minutes away, get back on the train and go to their car. That works out a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm such a small town guy. It would not even occur to me to do that. But yeah, that's way better. Speaking of Soldier Field, Justin Fields. What are we doing? What are we doing with old JF1 for Chicago?
You got to trade him. 100% have to trade him. That's going to be my take. And I feel like he's going to make me look ridiculous because he's going to go to the Falcons and be fucking awesome or something like that. Like, I don't think that he's bad. Listen, I don't think he's great at the same time either. But if I'm Chicago and I'm really doing like blowing this up, or at least trying, I guess here's the question that I ask myself, and I think that the answer is no. Will the Bears ever win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields as their quarterback? My answer would be no. And since I believe that to be no, you have to trade him and take another quarterback with the first pick. And you reset, like you have all the benefits of resetting your clock contract-wise, whatever it might be. Now, you might say, I do think that they can win with Justin Fields. And if that is your answer, then you keep him.
I think if I, just imagine me closing my eyes and going up like a Mentat from Dune and imagining all of the possible outcomes, there are worlds I can see where Justin Fields could win a Super Bowl in Chicago, but not with this coaching staff. I think these coaches, Eberflus and Getsy, I think they're idiots. Like they showed like basically no signs of competence to me. Maybe the defensive coach, I forget his name, the defensive coordinator, and maybe Eberflus is a good defensive coach. I don't know. But what has happened every year of the Justin Fields experience in Chicago is they start the season trying to have Justin Fields play an Andy Dalton style offense, right? A lot of 5-step dropbacks, a lot of, trying to fucking, feed Cole Kmet 11-yard seam passes, and it doesn't work, and he either gets hurt or just plays so bad that they have to bring in Nathan Peterman. This year it was Tyson Bagent, just what Trevor Siemian last year, whoever it might be, and then he comes back from getting hurt or getting benched, and then they say, you know what, let's try and win some games to save our job. Justin, you just do your thing, and it's all quick passes and running and scrambling, and if you just repeat that cycle forever, you'll never get anywhere. You will just be totally stuck in stasis. So what I would do is I would for sure trade Justin. I think you could get a conditional pick for him like the Eagles did for Wentz. Yeah, you could get a conditional first for Fields.
So, okay, I guess that's the part that I would have to explore as well. Like, what can you actually get for Fields? If the return on Fields is a 5th-round pick, then fuck it, trade the first pick and get the biggest haul ever, and then don't sign him to the whatever max deal it is. Just play him on his 5th-year option, see what he does, and maybe you're the worst team. Maybe you have a top 10 pick again, or at least you would have the assets to trade up next year. It just seems like I don't know anything really about college football, but from what people say at least, that you can pick like one of 4 guys this year, and they're all kind of expected to be good. Now, obviously, all 4 of them aren't going to be good.
Well, people aren't going to say that anymore after Penix just got absolutely crushed in the college football championship. But I actually think Galaxy Brain, opening up my 19th eye here, if you can do this mega trade, like get this crazy deal, and get Penix with like the 19th pick or something instead of the
Penix might,
yeah, exactly. I think if you can do that, if you can get this huge haul, keep Justin Fields and take Penix and just like basically have a quarterback competition, I don't hate it. Ultimately, at the end though, Caleb Williams and Drake May are they're Trevor Lawrence level prospects.
Okay, but here's the thing. Is Trevor Lawrence actually any good?
No, but he was a really good prospect.
Sure. So he was hyped as like a Andrew Luck type prospect. Now, I would say that Andrew Luck, although he retired early, didn't win shit, watching him play and the success that the Colts had with Andrew Luck, I would say that he basically lived up to the hype of being awesome. Like, he was a top 5 quarterback in football basically every single year post his rookie year. Lawrence isn't even fucking sniffing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is all that good, but I'm not gonna change my opinion on what I think about Caleb Williams and Drake May because Trevor Lawrence is Sam Bradford.
I understand that. I think he's better than Sam Bradford. And maybe, listen, he gets the built-in excuse, at least this year, because he made the playoffs last year, that he was just so crippled from a concussion, a knee problem,
he was the
high
Monty
ankle sprain.
Python Black Knight.
Yeah. And he ended up coming back. Like, sometimes that hurts people, where his ability to play through pain and to play at 60% capacity makes people think that he sucks because he's playing out there when he's not 100%. And it kind of happened to Herbert last year a little bit. Although Herbert might not be good either, by the way.
Well, don't. You're gonna get flagged. People are gonna do a community notes on this podcast if we start to say.
Oh no, I'm
bad
so
things
scared about these
Justin
fucking
Herbert.
losers in their basement who love Justin Herbert. I don't watch football, but I read the spreadsheet that said that he's the best quarterback in football. Why don't you do something? How about you win a game or make a pass? Wouldn't that help?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I tell the Justin Herbert people that he should try winning a game, they just say, "You don't get it, brother. You don't get it."
I feel
You
like
just don't
maybe
know ball."
here's the thing. Maybe they don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, so I had this conversation with Kevin Cole.
I'm sure Kevin loves him.
No. Well, Kevin is with me in the sense that there clearly is a delineation on quarterbacks between ball knowers and the stats guys, and Herbert and Lawrence are like the definition of the ball knowers. The people who claim they know ball will be like, if you don't see that Justin Herbert is maybe the best talented quarterback in the NFL, you just don't know ball, brother. And then you look at his advanced shit and you're like, yeah, I mean, he's good. Like Justin Herbert is, I would never say Justin Herbert is bad. Justin Herbert shouldn't have been paid by the Chargers or anything like that. But I certainly am not ready to say, oh, if the Chargers just get a serious coach and whatever, that they can win a Super Bowl. Like, I'm not ready to go there at all.
You see, I do think that he is a quarterback that I could see winning the Super Bowl one day, but Feinberg kind of put it best when we did the show. I mean, obviously there's no one who loves Herbert more than Feinberg, but he's like, I just wish Herbert would play more like Josh Allen, like be a bit more reckless, and maybe you'll be better. Like it seems like there's throws because we know, like, listen, I watched the film, Davis. He can make any throw. We know.
He can make all the throws.
He can make all the throws. He's super athletic. He can run, but he doesn't seem to use any of these things to his advantage. Where Josh Allen makes some horrible mistakes, but he uses every bit of his gifts to his advantage. You're 80 yards down the field. Well, he's going to try to hit you. He might throw a pick, but he might throw an 80-yard in-the-air touchdown to you as well. He might try to truck stick you on 3rd and 17. A guy who's 3 times the size. And you know what? It works sometimes. Sometimes he fumbles it. Sometimes he throws it backwards for no reason and makes the stupidest play. But he also hits those ceiling plays as well that Herbert just feels like he plays it too safe all the time. And it just, that conservative nature kills him.
I mean, again, far from me to diagnose what it is. I also thought Herbert was maybe not that good of a prospect at Oregon. Now that ended up being wrong, right? I mean, he clearly was better than I thought he was originally. It's just like, I mean, this is detracting from my original point, which is I think Caleb Williams is going to come in and be like, I think he is going to have the sort of impact on whichever team takes him as Stroud had on the Texans. And I would not be surprised to see Drake May do the same thing either, for the Commanders or whoever ends up taking him. And I just think it's so fucking hard to find that guy. Like, let's say theoretically the Bears do this trade and they trade him away and the Patriots get Caleb Williams or just whoever, right? And then we spend the next 5 years probably doing the Justin Fields dance because then they pick up the 5th-year option and they give him and then the Bears would just remain in this quarterback purgatory that I mean, when is the last time the Bears had a quarterback? Never, right? Like
Cutler.
Literally never. Yeah, I mean, but Cutler is just what is he? I mean, who's the modern day comp to Cutler?
It's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's the good Jay Cutler.
Yeah, but that's the thing is Cutler was never as good as Josh Allen. I mean, he was good.
He's not, but Cutler was good. Like Cutler, the year that Rodgers won the Super Bowl with Green Bay, they got there pretty easily in the NFC Championship game because Cutler got the Bears to the NFC Championship game and then he got hurt. Then Todd Collins had to play.
Yeah. Yeah, shit.
And they still only won that game like 10-3 or 17-10 or something.
But just like, I think that your opportunities as a franchise to get the quarterback are so infrequent that I just think you probably just because you'll get a first. You will get a conditional first for Justin Fields from somebody. I guarantee it.
You should, because I mean Rodgers technically got a conditional first from the Jets. He didn't play, so it didn't end up happening, and they ended up with a second round pick anyway. But Fields is one of the top half quarterbacks in football. But if you have a chance to get a potential, like, I don't think he's ever going to be top 5. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you have a chance to get a potential top 5 quarterback in football, that's what I'd be trying to do. Like, what's the point
It's
of
the
me
most
going...
important. It's the most important and most foundational piece over everything else. Particularly, as many people will note, you reset the salary cap clock too, because you're paying this number 1 overall pick nothing. Relatively speaking. These are teams I could see giving a conditional first or more for Justin Fields. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans, that one's probably thin, but I think possible because, who knows what they think of Levis. The Denver Broncos are totally in the wilderness at quarterback. The Raiders are totally in the wilderness at quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo not under contract next year.
Falcons.
The Falcons are for sure.
Tampa.
And the Seahawks. I think Tampa just re-signs Baker to
but maybe they will.
$47 million.
But like re-signing Baker to me is the same as when the Seahawks gave Geno all that money. It's like, what are you doing?
It's the same thing.
It's
good.
The
same thing.
You have now signed up for going 7-10, 9-8, winning your shitty division and losing in the first round of the playoffs.
It's enough for some teams.
Like
right?
Baker's probably, again, like one of the 20 best quarterbacks in football, but like his destiny is the best backup in football.
Yeah, Baker is like the best possible version of Gardner Minshew. Baker is the final. Baker can totally win you 9 games, but he is exceedingly unlikely to ever be a guy who leads a comeback down 10 points in the conference championship.
And the problem is, as a starting quarterback, he's too good for you being a bad team to have, because he will get you wins. You don't want that. You want... I'm trying to think of all of the terrible quarterbacks. Hell, I like Nick Mullins, but dude can't win games. He might average 400 passing yards a game.
Mullins is a great example of that, where Mullins is just Jameis, right? Where it's like, he can get you the stats, but he is not winning you games.
Yeah, like if you want to actually tank, but not have your fans revolt on you, sign Nick Mullins and make him your quarterback and do the same game plan that Minnesota had for the final 6 games. You're going to throw 50 times, man. Just chuck it wherever you want.
Well, so that's sort of an interesting one. I mean, what happens with Kirk Cousins coming back?
He goes back to Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what everyone assumes. And I guess it probably does happen, but I don't know. I could see something different happening there for maybe the first time ever.
Oh, I wanted to squeeze this in because I'm doing this now. I have moved my giant golf column every week to my free newsletter. So if people want to subscribe to go to Substack, go to Mayo Media Network, or just like click on my show and there's like a free link down there. Subscribe to that if you want the golf column. It's very informative. It's like it's probably the most informative thing I actually do. Because, I used to be a good writer. And this is the only thing that I still write. I still write my weekly golf column, and I've been doing that for 15 years now.
I subscribe. It's a good column. Everyone should be subscribed to the Mayo Media Network, the Mayo Media Network newsletter. They should, all these things. They should always support Mr. Mayo and all his endeavors.
So what else did I have down besides Fields? That was a good one. That lasted according to these time codes, 12 minutes. Look at us cutting through time here on actual topics.
I mean, we can talk about the Chiefs.
But before, because Cust asked this, because he's victory lapping Hall of Famer Lamar, 2 MVPs. And I want your opinion, just based on what you think, and what you think the public's opinion would be. Because we ran this poll last year, and I remember what the results were. If you had to start a team tomorrow, and your only 2 options were Lamar or Josh Allen, who would you take?
Lamar.
I would take Josh Allen. I would take Josh Allen.
I think it's pretty close, but if I get to start a team, that means that I get to hire the coach. That means that I get to hire the offensive coordinator. That means that I get to pick the skill position players to go with him.
So you think that you could maximize Lamar's talent more than you could maximize Josh Allen's talent?
I think that Lamar, if you got 17 healthy games of Lamar, there is no reality where you ever win less than 10 games. He just is too efficient and too skilled as a rusher. And if I'm winning 10 games every single year, I'm going to have a really good chance of winning a Super Bowl one of those years. I'm going to be drawing very live for a bye. And Lamar, for all of his faults, and of course, Lamar, like I'm not one of these Lamar fanboys that's like, he's the greatest passer in the history of the game. He's never made a mistake. Like, obviously, Lamar does make some mistakes. The dude never turns the ball over. He never turns the ball over. And that it is so hard to find a quarterback who doesn't get sacked, never turns the ball over, and completes, like a decent percentage of his passes. Like that's that's the thing that makes Mahomes so crazy. And obviously not so much this year with the turnovers, but Mahomes never takes sacks. He's like maybe him and Brady and Manning are like maybe the greatest in the history of the sport and not taking sacks.
I don't feel like Allen takes many sacks either.
Well, he turns the ball over.
Yeah, he turns the ball over a ton. So yeah, that's kind of the diametric opposite. The reason I bring it up because we ran this poll last year. But I think it was before the season started. And it probably had like 3,000 votes or something like that. But it was like 88-12 Josh Allen over Lamar. So are we just in the glow of Lamar because he's the MVP, the rightful MVP, and he's having the best year of any quarterback? Well, him or Dak.
I would have said that last offseason with Lamar coming off of like getting injured for the 19th time and not wanting to re-sign his contract. It's just how I view I think Lamar's skill set is so irreplaceable.
But what happens when Lamar, let's just say Lamar goes into the playoffs this year, they're the 1 seed coming off a bye and just get knocked out again. The Texans
they lose to the Browns or the Texans. Yeah. My opinion is honestly still probably the same.
I know, but then the narrative flips. Like if we ran this poll today, it would probably be like 70-30 Lamar, 60-40 Lamar. If they lost in the first round, even if both of them, let's say,
but they both lost in the first round.
Let's say Allen, they all get to the right. Let's say everything goes chalk. It's Kansas City at Buffalo. Kansas City beats them. Houston at Baltimore. Houston beats Baltimore. It will reflect more poorly on Lamar. And maybe that's unfair, but he can win his 10. He's a great regular season quarterback, Davis, but when it comes time to win the big games, can't do it. Can't win with Lamar. That would be the narrative. Where with Josh Allen, people would give him a pass. Because it goes back. Again, like not everyone's going to be Tom Brady and win 7 Super Bowls. When you kind of take a look at some of the quarterbacks that have won, you want the Josh Allen, Brett Favre type, or even the Flacco type. When it feels like at one point in Josh Allen's career, he's going to get to the playoffs and he's going to go unconscious for 4 games and he's going to be the best player. It might happen once. Rodgers did it once. Flacco did it once. Favre did it once. Favre did it twice, and then he threw one really bad pick, and it only ended up winning the Super Bowl once. But like that type of high ceiling, maybe Lamar can fall into that too, where it just all clicks one year and everything goes right for him. But with these high variance quarterbacks, you can just see it like you have to get lucky with the timing of the variance. But if it happens in these 4 games, I think that's what I would be betting on because it's so hard to win because you have Mahomes there.
I actually like that idea of the high variance quarterback being the one because I said the opposite, right? I said you have
want
Lamar,
steady Eddie.
You win 10 games every year. It's like impossible to lose less than that.
But it reminds me of both the Tampa Bay Rays and the Philadelphia Phillies from like the mid aughts to like late aughts, where like
over the hill.
When you're running out Cliff Lee and Cole Hamels and Roy Halladay as your starting staff, you're gonna win 100 games and you're gonna make the playoffs. But in a 5-game series, you might just relying that much on starting pitching that goes deep into games isn't always the best. The teams that win the teams that win the World Series are the teams that are just like the 3 outcome dudes. They're gonna, except for the Royals that 1 year where that was just kind of shifted. But it's just like, who can hit the most home runs in August over a 3-week stretch? They're going to win.
Well, yeah, those Kansas City Royals teams, some of my most treasured memories ever.
But shrinking everything down into that, it's like no different than, I always make this reference because it's like the last time I really cared about college basketball was probably like 2005 or something. But when Ali Faroukmanesh just went crazy, I think they knocked out Kansas.
I remember where I was watching,
and just like game. He just hit all the threes and like that was it. That was over. People should have at that point looked at that game and realized, man, like we just need to shoot threes all the time if we're not the best team, and this is all we need to do, and maybe we can just beat the best team.
Yeah, I mean so the big shift in the NFL this season has obviously been teams don't really play that way. Teams are there. It is the lowest average depth of target in 10 years. Rushing efficiency is down, scoring is down, like everything is down. So the really good running teams and the more than anything, the really good defensive teams, the Ravens, the 49ers, the Browns, these teams have a big advantage. But one thing I've noticed is that I think the reason why Jordan Love seems so fun and why the Packers have had success, and the same thing is true of Stroud. I mean, we saw it in literally the first play of the game. They're willing to fucking huck it in a way that these other, like, when's the last time you saw Pat uncork a pass 30 yards down the field and you were like, oh, that's going to be a completion? Like, every time Pat like steps up in the pocket and is about to unleash one, I'm like, just don't be an interception. Just please, like, whatever idiot wide receiver is down the field, please just bat it down so this doesn't get intercepted, And honestly, like the Dolphins too, like when the Dolphins are not getting the 80-yard bombs to Tyreek,
Oh man,
it's just like nothing. They got nothing.
The Dolphins as a Jekyll and Hyde team, even to watch, is so like you can tell when they are a strict vibes team. When they're vibing, they are fun, and when they are not fun at all.
Yeah, I mean, I have picked against the Dolphins every time they played a good team in 2023. Now, I don't know if the Chiefs count as a good team.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Is Kansas City good? Can you see Kansas City winning the Super Bowl? Because I can.
Yeah, I mean, really all it takes is them turning back the clock a little bit. Kelsey getting a fucking PRP injection into his knee. A couple timely Isaiah Pacheco runs, Kadarius Toney not, just turning the ball, like not just like literally handing the ball. It's kind of crazy that Kadarius Toney did that twice in one season, is still on the team. Like literally there are 2 games you can point out to and said those would have been wins, almost 100% win probability, had Kadarius Toney just simply caught a ball that was literally in his hands. I mean, it's nuts. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's not that dissimilar to the 2021 team. Remember the 2021 team? They get blown out by the Titans. They get blown out by the Bills. Everyone's like, these dudes stink. They can't do anything. And then they make it to the Super Bowl. Now, in the end, they did get blown out by the Buccaneers because Andy Reid's son killed someone like 70 hours before kickoff, and 3 of their offensive linemen were out. But yeah, I can see it, but it's hard for me to tell how much of that is cope or not. I can see it, but I don't think it's very likely.
Yeah, their range of outcomes is so huge because like A-Chain, because it's supposed to be frigid in Kansas City this weekend, right?
It's gonna be like 0 degrees and snowy.
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect a lot of scoring in that game. And I do think that the better rushing attack and the more unique rushing attack lies with the Dolphins. That if they can,
for sure.
And like they can break off 80-yard runs even in the snow. Like it becomes, people forget that they think like cold weather, they think snow, they think low scoring. And generally speaking, they are right. But it's also an avenue for really big plays for fast players. I remember LaShawn McCoy in a snow game once, Buffalo against the Colts, and just demolished them. I think he had like 40 carries in the game, and just no one could tackle him.
Yeah, he always smashes in the snow.
It's just like no one had any footing except for LaShawn McCoy, and he was just gone. So if remember, reminder to the Dolphins to bring their snow cleats or cold cleats, whatever it is. But they just have so much speed that one guy slips, and now it's a 75-yard touchdown. Where I look on the other side of the field, better quarterback, Kansas City. Better defense, Kansas City. Maybe it's negated in terms of offense, but in terms of like big plays, Kansas City has none.
They never get big plays. It's so the image that is in my mind of this season and will stick, assuming that it doesn't end up becoming memorable, is them in the second half against the Raiders just banging their dicks in the mud, just trying to get like 5 yards at a time and just being incapable, just like it's 1st and 10, it's 2nd and 9, it's 3rd and 7, and then they're punting. And just like they had an 8.5 minute drive in the 3rd quarter against the Raiders that ended with a field goal. Just being like, that is not the Chiefs. That is not the Andy Reid Mahomes Chiefs. And like, if they play that way in any of these playoff games, like if that's the recipe, the defense either has to be like the 85 Bears or they are just going to get blown out.
So if they can limit the big play, I think that their path to the Super Bowl actually works out really well if you wanted to spin it that way. You get this cold weather game against the Dolphins, which you should. I mean, they're 4-point favorites. You should beat them. And like where their defense is so much better now than it's been any of these other previous years. Their offensive line is very good, and Mahomes is very good. And Pacheco's like, all right. So you can.
Yeah, he's fine.
And maybe they just weren't trying most of the year. Who knows? I'm sure that's not the case, but you need Rashee Rice to. You need one of these receivers to step up and Kelsey to look a little bit how he doesn't need to be peak Kelsey. He needs to be like 80% peak Kelsey, not 50% peak Kelsey. But you can win.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like if Kelsey plays like he did towards like if the week off did not help him, buddy, it ain't happening.
I mean,
He's
I thought
got to
he
be
broke
good.
his ankle in Minnesota in like week 5, and he like missed a snap.
I mean, we literally at the beginning of the year we thought he was out. We thought he was done. We thought he tore his ACL and he was like had this hyperextension and he just played on it all year. The dude is 34. I'm 31. If I hyperextend my knee, I promise you I'm not up and running in 2 weeks. Like I'm gonna be miserable. I hope the week off was very good for him.
So, but what I'm trying to say is like they get this cold outdoors game. Maybe not a lot of offense if they can shut down the rushing game. Because I don't think that like. I mean, yeah, Tua could throw a bubble screen to Tyreek or Waddle, and they could take it 90 yards by making one guy miss. But I don't think it's going to be like seven-step drop for Tua, bombing it 50 yards down the field, like over defenders' heads. It doesn't feel like the right elements for that type of game. So you get this cold outdoor game against a speedy offense who has no one left on defense and no offensive line. Maybe the defense can grind them down because the elements kind of suggest that they could. Then they go to Buffalo next week. It's kind of the same thing. It's going to be shitty elements. The Bills' offense has looked putrid in terms of just consistency week to week. It seems like the Bills have decided that they want to take some of the variance out of the game. I know that didn't happen so much against Miami, but they want to run the ball.
That's for sure what they want. That has clearly been Joe Brady's thing.
Yeah, and they want to run the ball more. They want to shrink the games down. They don't want to have, like, their defense has played really well for just the people that they have left. But the more that you see them on the field, the worse that it is. So if you can shrink the game down, keep the ball in the hands of the offense, and just don't have your defense out there that much, then maybe you can mask that a little bit. But that's a lot like what Kansas City is doing as well. Like those teams are a coin flip to me right now. So Kansas City could most definitely go into Buffalo and win that game. Again, cold weather, defensive battle. Kansas City has the better defense. That's going to work. And then you have to go into Baltimore and just hope that they gag. But again, it'll probably be outdoors. I mean, it will be outdoors regardless of where they play, but it'll probably be cold. You rely on your defense. Now, Baltimore does everything better than Kansas City, except for one main key component that always comes back to is that they have Patrick Mahomes, and he could just play like Patrick Mahomes, and if he does that, they're going to win.
I mean, like at the end of the day, that's really it. It's nothing logical, right? It's nothing about being like, oh, they could make this schematic change.
It is.
It's just
does the best player in the league play his best? If he does that, they're probably going to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, certainly that is what I am rooting for, right? I mean, that is the outcome that would be most favorable to me. I think in the past, anytime they've been in one of these spots, like the Bills game is a good example where I'm like, oh, they get the ball back 2 minutes, 13 seconds left. I'm like, oh, this is just a win. This is a Chiefs win, And this season, the 6th year of Mahomes' career is the first time I can ever remember them getting the ball back in one of these spots and being like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like it just, the vibe, it's the only time the vibes around the team has ever been bad, really.
I can see that, but I mean, that all kind of flips. Like the playoffs has such a different way of, and like, listen, I think that there is a decent chance. That's what's so funny about the Chiefs and us talking about it. Are they good or not? Can they win the Super Bowl? I think winning the Super Bowl is tougher because then they'll be in like, where's the Super Bowl this year? Vegas?
No idea.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's in Vegas. So they get to play in optimal conditions inside. No way they're beating San Francisco in optimal conditions.
Oh yeah, that's so true.
Like
yeah.
You need the element, like they need the elements in their favor this year to help them out a little bit. Like if you had to put, I mean, obviously Baltimore is the best matchup for San Francisco, but like who would you give a chance to beat San Francisco from the AFC? Because I really think I mean, Cleveland beat them already, but again, that was elements. Everyone got hurt on San Francisco. It's probably just the Ravens and Bills. Like, they have the right teams to potentially give them a challenge. I mean, the Ravens especially, but other than that, it would be the Bills, in my mind.
The Bills probably. I mean, I just think really it is as simple as if the 49ers play B plus football for 3 games, I just don't like no one's touching them, right?
It's the Ravens can get to Purdy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it like hinges on Trent Williams as well. Like, can he hold up? Like, that's out of all of the players on San Francisco right now, like, yeah, when McCaffrey got dinged up, that wasn't great. When Debo was out there, they lost 3 straight games. But that also correlated with Trent Williams being out at the same time. And then all of a sudden, Purdy doesn't look like Purdy anymore because he doesn't have all the time in the world to make the right decision every single time. It would be like when the Giants beat Brady. Just, you pressure Brady up the middle, move him off the spot, and all of a sudden he sucks.
People forget that Mark Sanchez beat Tom Brady in a playoff game.
The Jets defense beat Tom Brady in a playoff game. Let's be real here.
I'm just saying, people do forget. People, the Brady mythologizing.
You're a Run the Sims member, right?
I am a Run the Sims member.
Yeah, have you been using the prop sniper?
I've not been using the prop sniper because I have to drive 20 minutes to go bet props. So I don't, which I was doing a good bit at the beginning of the season. I haven't been doing it as much now. They have basically in landlocked states now, they have basically pari-mutuel player prop betting.
I saw that. DraftKings has that like Pick6 type thing.
Pick6. Yeah.
There we go.
So
Is that any good?
yeah.
I haven't played it.
I mean, look, it's fine. It probably is a little bit beatable because for example, Saturday football slate, everyone's taking the overs, right? People are like Mahomes over, Josh Allen over, Rashee Rice over, and if you do a bunch of unders, the number of people who go 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 or whatever is going to be less than if you submit an all 6 overs or whatever.
I heard Brian and Pete talking about that on Lols. That actually made a lot of sense. That basically it's a game theory game because the prize pool can only be so large based on the amount of people that have actually signed up to play, and you're playing against them, and they can split whatever if they get everything right. That you just do the opposite of what they're doing, and you would probably only need to win like once in every 30 times to actually make more money than the other side. Well,
yeah. I mean, so the math is on like a 5 for like a usual force parlay thing. It's if you do the 5 pick slips, you have to win 1 in every 19 times to have an edge, basically.
Do you think this is DraftKings' way of getting into states like California and Texas where you can do these parlay fantasy parlay whatever, like Prize Picks and Underdog and that kind of thing. So when it does pass, they can just convert everyone over to the sportsbook right away. Because although most people who have a DraftKings account and play daily fantasy where it would be legal is there already, that this is a way, like, not everyone wants to play a salary cap football game. They just don't. But people like to pick an over. Well, I mean, they like to pick overs. Let's be serious here. If they want to play a thing where they can just press over this number, and then it's good to go. Like, you cast a wider net with people with this sort of game than you would for daily fantasy to convert them over to real sportsbook once that time comes.
I mean, I think that it is basically a byproduct, an accident of them legally challenging Prize Picks and Underdog, and that they wanted to have something to bring to market to show why or to demonstrate to lawmakers that what the base model of Underdog and Prize Picks were doing was not legal. And I think that any sort of customer retention or whatever, or customer acquisition that it gets is viewed as a bonus. But to me, I think it's just Robbins and his boys just being good at their jobs, just really being good at continuing to make DraftKings have the future ability to generate a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, any sort of contest like that. I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, we filled the one and done $200 per entry, 4,440 spots. So that's, I think the company took an 11% rate. So that's $888,000 in entry fees. I'm surprised that DraftKings Sportsbook doesn't run something like that. I'm glad that they don't, because this company can continue to pay me to shield play in this one.
The sportsbook runs some pools, not a one and done. They do they have like a survivor pool, and they have some things like that.
Do they? Because the Circus Super Contest or the Circus Survivor and even the Super Contest, those seem like, maybe it's because they've been around so long that they have that sort of credibility. But if there was one on DraftKings Sportsbook, and maybe there is, and I just don't know about it, and they're bad at marketing it. Which
pretty sure there is a Survivor.
Which I should know. I mean, most sites have Survivors, but can I go in and call it? I mean, remember, Josh used to run the Super 7 contest. Remember that? We all used to pay $100, and you pick your 7 favorite spreads of the week. The Super contest, you pick your 5 favorite spreads of the week, whatever it might be. I'm shocked there's not a huge online version of that at one of the major sports books. It's really confusing and confounding.
My guess is that there's some legality thing with that. My guess is that in America there's some sort of I don't even know what it would be, but some sort of peer-to-peer limitation. I don't even know, but they're across state lines, money, just something like that.
Yeah, I could most definitely see that, because the company that runs the One and Done, they ran a Survivor pool for me this week, but it didn't get done in time, so we didn't launch it until week 7, so it had to be free. Although I know people that won money in it, so that's nice. Congratulations to them. I think it was $5K to split for a free contest. We did a March Madness bracket with them too, but it had to be free because because of what you're talking about. There's weird rules state by state. But what I wanted to do because it has something to do with spreads and NFL teams. If you called it something different, then maybe there's a legal way around it. I'm no lawyer. My wife might be a lawyer, but I am no lawyer. I just, have the cadence of a lawyer and the asshole tone that people believe me when I talk. But I do think that you could do it with props, because it's fantasy points kind of thing, yardage, individual players. Then you can call it fantasy, not gambling. That what if we try to come up with a pool for next year where there's a list of, let's say, it would be tougher that maybe on, I don't know, Saturday night, that a prop list of 50 props gets dropped, and you have to pick 10 of your favorite props, and it's a big pool all year long. So you have to pick 10 props from 50 or 100, whatever it might be, every single week. Because you need to figure out a way that you can make it late enough in the week where injuries just don't ravage the entire thing, and there's 10 free squares on the board every single week. That's why you have to make it 10, because there's probably going to be 1, 2, or 3 free squares because of a late inactive, whatever it might be. But you still want to put it out early enough in time that people have the ability to go make their picks. Would you want to play in something like that, or would you just rather bet props?
So I think that's the problem that you run into. I mean, people would probably do it, some subset, but prop-based contests exist already, and people do not give a fuck about them. What is it? Thrive Fantasy, which is currently scamming a bunch of people.
Thrive Fantasy finally fucked off.
Yeah.
They're not. So, all I've been seeing on I saw the Legal Sports Report.
Yeah, they've got 14 users who have 300K of withdrawals that they're just not paying them.
It's this generation's fantasy aces.
Oh, there was another one. I mean, there's been a lot of DFS sites that have rugged over the years. But yeah, that format has existed for a while. Okay. People don't care.
I just like the season a lot, because I was thinking about pools in general. Because there's only so many ways to grab people into gambling. I mean, that's all the sportsbooks want to do, right? They just want to get new customers, have them stick around, have them lose money, but still not lose enough. And with the churn, you need to get new customers to feed the ecosystem the entire time. So how do you get where's the biggest base of new users coming from? Now, I don't know the answer to that, because I don't have the inside research for it.
It would be getting women to bet on sports.
And men 50 and over would be my guess. I think you're frozen.
You froze on me.
No, you froze on me. There is a bad storm here. I had to shovel snow this morning for the first time. That sucked. But yeah. I would say men over 50 as well would be just because they're not good at technology. So they don't have accounts.
Feels like an easier convert to get women, like let's say your long-term goal as the NFL and FanDuel and DraftKings and whatever and BetMG, all these places to get women over the next 10 years into sports betting, then it would be to get a bunch of boomers to download DraftKings and start firing, player props or whatever.
Hey, I honest to God, and one of this, I think I brought this up to you before. One of the main reasons that the Pat Mayo Experience has a larger female audience than basically any other show. It's not because I'm fucking hot. I am, but Fantasy Bachelor, Fantasy Challenge, all the fantasy like reality TV stuff that we did 10 years ago that brought in, and listen, the female audience of my show demographically now, percentage-wise, is not as high as it was then when we were actively covering that stuff full-time. But a lot of those people still did stick around to this day that I hear from, and that they tell me that's how they got into it, that if we could figure out a way to do that on Sportsbook, like that's the in. And it's not so much about like what you can bet on, what you can't bet on. It's all about just, again, the customs and conventions. How do I use this? And then people do like, well, I download the app. Well, here's how I deposit money. And here's how I make my picks. Well, maybe I'll try this for NFL 6 months down the road. That's the way in. But I think that where so many older, like 50 plus men, speaking like even at my golf club, it's the same thing. Like they don't want to bet on someone to win the Masters. But if I give them a sheet and tell them they have to pay $500 and pick 6 names off this master pool list, they will. So obviously they want to bet money, but that just like getting onto an app is just a bit too much for them. Like, could we get them with pools and then get them in kind of thing?
I think it's possible. I mean, you would just have to, you'd have to start from a very high level for these things. I'm thinking about like, okay, like let's say the NFL hired me tomorrow and they were like, your goal is you need to get as many women who have a sports betting account by 2035 as possible. I would honestly start very grassroots level. I would just be like paying shit tons of influencers, just like small ones at like a very small level before going to the next level. Cause like obviously like if we got fucking Kim Kardashian out here.
Well, I mean, you're talking about both different poles here. I like this idea, the small influencers, and then generally how this works if people don't know. So it becomes like the smaller influencers, be it, and now where TikTok is growing a little bit more, back 5 years ago, it was really only Instagram. So you'd pay like low-level Instagram, low-level TikTok, that would, and pay them to like enhance and like promote kind of thing. You pay them to promote, but also pay them a budget where they're buying impressions to get in front of whatever it might be. The next level up would be the me's and you's of the world, where they come to us and be like, hey, Pat, I mean, this is basically what Prize Picks did, and it worked really well for them. They did that. Then they came to people like me and Sal and whoever it was at the time to be like, hey, can you do shows around Prize Picks? Mention Prize Picks. Like, yeah, we can do that. And that's what we did. And then, where we were somewhat established in the space as it was, it lent it a little bit more credibility. It wasn't just the two of us. There was a lot of people doing it at the time, but this level of it. And then you go even bigger. Like I'm seeing Prize Picks commercials on TV now. That's the next step up in marketing. And it's kind of gone, like they've done a really good job of spending like those gambling commercials. Spend within your limits. I feel like they did a really good job of that at Prize Picks and Underdog as well. Coming in and doing the marketing at the grassroots level, small, bigger, until it becomes a real thing. A lot of these like PointsBet, Caesars, Bally's, like these ones that have tried to get into the online gambling space, like they spent themselves out trying to compete with DraftKings and FanDuel. Like it was stupid.
Yeah, they were, I guess like I see why they were doing what they did, because even landing as the number 3 in that race could have been valuable if you outlasted everyone else. Like let's say BetMGM, like literally every other sports book just decided we can't compete. Like being the number 3 could have been valuable, but it's a lot of money to get there. And just everyone ended up tapping out. Like DraftKings and FanDuel were just too good.
Yeah, and BetMGM I think is a solid 3. Bet ESPN, they have an inherent advantage. They really do.
Yes.
Because they can reach those people. ESPN can reach those people that do not have gambling accounts yet, which is so valuable right now. So it was a good time to come in. It's sort of like, it's funny that the pen went from Barstool to ESPN, where you couldn't think of two more opposite audiences. And as it turned out, Barstool was like the worst place ever to try to acquire new customers, because none of those people have any money to bet.
Yeah, turns out a bunch of 19-year-old frat dudes are they get their one deposit a month and they burn through it and then that's it. And then you get, all of your like look, I'm a self-respecting man in my 30s. I'm not fucking registering for the Barstool Sportsbook. I'm not hitting bet on whatever Dave Portnoy's parlay of the day is. Not for me.
No, but I mean that on paper that's a perfect strategy. Portnoy
Yes.
is someone who goes viral all the time. He's very well known. He's very well seen. He has a huge following. People love him. It's just his audience aren't necessarily the right people. They're not the best customers. Whereas I don't know yet of the long term about ESPN Bet, but I would guess 55-year-old dude who's still paying for ESPN, probably a good customer if you can get him.
Yes. I mean, that ultimately is I think a smart bet that ESPN Bet is making. And I would imagine long term they will be successful. I mean, I think that it was a tremendous lack of vision by the true higher ups at ESPN to not start planning for this 15 years ago, honestly. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
the reason that FanDuel and DraftKings are so far ahead was because, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they only launched the DFS product 10 years ago, or at least 2 years into it, be like, gambling's coming. Let's get ready for that. I mean, that's the main reason that I signed on with DraftKings anyway. Like, that wasn't a part of the discussion. But if I saw it, then obviously they saw it coming and they knew how big business that was going to be or how big it was overseas. Your message popped up on the screen there, even on the thing. So yes, we know you have to go in 10 minutes, Davis.
I do gotten out in 10
But
minutes.
anyway, I love talking about this stuff when it comes down to it. But it's funny that all these other places spend themselves out. They go out of business. Now you have ESPN Bet in the market. BetMGM is still around. They're still doing well, at least I think. Like Bet Rivers is still around to compete. Fanatics is getting into the space, and I think they're very unique in the space because of all the verticals that they have. You can have gambling, apparel, whatever it is, all in the same place. That makes a lot of sense, I think. Like, that's a good crossover and a good synergy with that audience. But then you just have Bet365. And when you see all these reports come out state by state that they're like fourth or they're third, in like New Jersey and Indiana or whatever it might be, those might not be the actual ones. But they do a decent amount of handle, and I think they've spent $0 advertising in the United States. What do they have? They have a reputation as being the world's biggest sports book, and their product works all the time. And they do limit people, but they do pay out very fast.
Which is valuable. If you want to be that's more of a market making style book, and you got to write a lot of tickets if you want to do that. So that would make sense for them to not market or whatever. There's a big difference between a retail sports book and a market maker. So that's Circa. I don't know if we'll ever see a Circa advertisement on during an NFL game. Probably not, but they're going to keep writing a bunch of tickets and people want to wager with them because they know that they have fair lines and fair odds. It is a different business model. They're just trying to accomplish different things.
Oh, 100%. But with Bet365, what I think that it's not like they don't have money. And it's not like they're never going to advertise. They do like a little bit of advertising here and there, but nothing like to the extent of the other places. Like, they're not hiring Jamie Foxx to be like, I'm at a funeral and I can play blackjack on BetMGM, which kind of sounds great. Not going to lie to you.
Oh my God. How fucking amazing is mobile blackjack?
I have not crossed over into iGaming. I just can't do it. It's a bad idea for me. I wish maybe
it's a bad idea for me.
Maybe there's a feature on that I can go into that I can I would, because we don't have we don't have legal gambling where I'm at. So I only played on DraftKings Sportsbook, FanDuel Sportsbook, wherever it is when I'm in a legal place. Here I just use Bet365 as a gray market. But in the Bet365 one, I've never had the temptation to go over, but I remember losing a bunch of money playing blackjack on Bodog 15 years ago. And I just wish there was a button I could instantly go into the sports betting app that I want to self-exclude from iGaming immediately. I still want to use the sports book that I can handle. I can't handle myself in iGaming, so I literally can't click on it. And I know a few people who will not download sportsbook apps because it is connected to iGaming and they can't trust themselves around iGaming because it's not it's literally funny money when it's on your phone. You're like, oh, I'm playing a game. No, you just lost $20,000.
Correct. Yeah. So I don't have iGaming where I live. I don't have iGaming in Illinois either when I cross the border, but I've been on a couple vacations. I went on a couple vacations in 2023 in states that did have iGaming, and yeah, it's not healthy to be able to play, $50 hands of blackjack on your phone. Like, that shouldn't exist. That should be the legislators should actually protect me from that. I'm fine with that.
No, so listen, I think that everyone should have the ability to do it because some people can do it and not have a problem with doing it. I would legitimately lose all my money doing it. So I can't do that. Like, sports betting and like casino game gambling are such two different things to me. And I can go into a casino and play and be fine. But just there's the gamification of it where it feels like a video game on my phone, where sports betting doesn't feel that way to me. Having chips in my hand and going to a casino and sitting there doesn't feel that way to me. But for me personally, it feels that way on my phone. That just can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, and you shouldn't do it, right? At the end of the day, that is what it is. I just having those just what a mind fuck the 21st century is, just having that option.
Here's what I want to end with, because we didn't get to the one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about now that we have to go, is I've been on I don't want to call it a diet since the new year. I just changed the way that I eat. Yeah. I want to consume. I sent you that screenshot of how many calories I burned on my treadmill.
Yeah.
125,000 calories. And let's call it, that's probably not that much because it's a treadmill. Let's call it like 75% of that, whatever it is. But I ran like 800 miles on my treadmill alone. That's no gym, no outside. That was just me watching sports this year at home, running on the treadmill. It's the only thing that I use it for. I gained weight last year.
Yeah.
Now I bulked, I lifted big, but I had to figure out, like, why am I getting fatter and I'm running 800 miles a year or 1,000 miles a year and burning a ton of calories? So I bought a scale, and I will not eat anything unless I weigh it. At least I have for the past 10 days. I don't think it's going to stick like forever. But on the margins, I think I figured out where a lot of it was coming from. And a lot of it was coming from me just like snacking on my kids' shit all the time. Because
that's what every parent I know says like, oh, you finish up a chicken nugget here or there, and it really adds up.
It does. It's unbelievable. I'm worried for Pete once his daughter ends up like a year from now, like when she starts like, I want McDonald's, and like gets out once a week or once every 2 weeks, and there's just some extra large fries kicking around. And Pete, it does happen to everyone, especially people who are working out all the time. And they're like, you don't get the results that you want to get. But I have found that weighing everything and not eating it until weighing everything is a fucking hassle. That it actually like limits how much you eat. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that would be so. One of my things is I am just calorie tracking everything that I am doing in everything that I am eating in January, and just being whatever avenue it takes, weighing it, tracking it, like whatever it is, just being conscious of literally every piece of food that you put in your body. For me, it shaves off just like 800 calories a day of just like mindless grazing type shit.
Same as me, because I still like to graze, but I haven't been doing it. Because, I mean, I did it once. I grabbed that thing full of, like, popcorn chips the other day and just put it on the scale. It's like, I'm going to jot that one down. But generally, I'm not going to walk by, like, the pantry and be like, oh, yeah, here's a handful of chips. Let's go get a bowl, put the bowl on the scale, adjust it, put it into it so I know exactly how many calories it's going to be. That barrier of actually weighing the food is the difference, because it's a hassle to weigh the food. Now, it's great that I'm consuming fewer calories. I've had to up my protein. I'm taking protein shakes for the first time in my life to make sure that I continue to have enough protein, because I always did, because I basically eat meat with every single meal, that this is sort of like an adjustment up. That's why people take protein shakes, to make sure that they can still bulk up and build muscle while trying to lose fat at the same time. But I probably shaved off literally, like you said what you did, like I'm at like 1,000 to 1,500 calories a day less. Because there's no grazing, there's no extra meal, because it's a pain in the ass to weigh fucking food and then make it every single time. Like, no eating out and no like microwave meals, anything like that. Just I have to have fresh food, weigh it out, and you find by the time you sometimes collect all the stuff, you're not even fucking hungry anymore.
You just gotta, I mean, yeah, I think you really cannot go wrong just like eating shit that is the closest to its natural state, tracking how much you eat, you know. I mean,
I guess the point that I'm trying to make, and maybe I'm not clear about this, is that the bureaucracy of tracking calories properly actually makes you consume less because it's a hassle.
It changes your whole your whole mental chemistry about eating. You stop it stops being just a pure dopamine reward. It's like a little bit of work. So it changes your relationship with food and with eating in a positive way for weight loss.
Yeah. And in health in general, like I'm a lot healthier now. Like I'm just not consuming shit. I'm only consuming good food at this point. But like I'm going out on Saturday, we're going out for a huge meal. Can't fucking wait to eat like 5,000 calories. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, you got so like I'm probably gonna go out to dinner this weekend as well, and yeah, like I'm just gonna pig the fuck out because I mean I'm down a couple pounds, like feeling good, lifting weights, running, doing all that shit, and I personally do not want to have a purely food is fuel type relationship with food.
And that's the thing, trying to find like 500 calorie meals that I actually enjoy to eat was tough, but I'm now like working through it. So I have a list of things, the weights of them all that both fill me up that I also like to eat. And like people have asked me, like, am I doing intermittent fasting or anything? I'm not. I'm just eating when I'm hungry.
Yeah. Fuck. That is extremely good advice too. Is just eating when you're hungry and not eating just because you're bored.
Yeah. Don't eat when you're bored, but don't feel like if you're hungry at 8 o'clock in the morning, eat at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like it's okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's what I wanted to get out there. And like
we can do. Why don't we round back up in a month and see if you're still having fun or if you're miserable weighing your food?
Yeah, let's do that because I have like 2 weeks of shows to fill while I'm on vacation. So that's a good one that we can kind of bang out whenever, and we can save it for that week. And it gives you a week off from this show as well. But I'm going to send you this because I've been doing more Instagram workouts instead of running all the time. I'm going to send you the one I did this morning. Like some of these are fucking tough, man.
I'll try it if it seems interesting to me. I'll give it a go.
Cool. All right, man.
All right. Talk to you soon, man.
See ya.
Mayo Experience! Experience!